The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to the Wyoming Women's Business Center's 2020 webinar series. Today's presentation is Setting Up Your Business for Online Sales. I'm Christine Langley with the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and I'm going to be your speaker today. You'll notice the GoToWebinar control panel on the right side of your screen. I want to call special attention to both the questions panel as well as the chat panel. If you've got any questions or comments, I want you to use those panels to communicate with us during this presentation. And my colleague Teresa is on the line today, and she's going to help me manage your questions. So this webinar is being recorded, and it's going to be available on our YouTube channel. So you can just go to youtube.com and type in Wyoming Women's Business Center. Make sure you subscribe and check out our other webinars as well. You can always visit us on our website at wyomingwomen.org or look for us on Facebook and Instagram. So immediately following this presentation, we're going to launch a survey, and I asked everybody to hang on the line for just a few extra minutes to complete that survey because it provides us, as well as our funding partners, with valuable information. So everyone on the call today is muted in order to minimize background noise. And so once again, if you have any questions or comments during the presentation, go ahead and type them in that chat box or the questions panel, and we'll get to them at the end of this presentation. All right, today's agenda, we're going to get started just with some quick information about the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and then we'll dive into our topic today, and we'll finish up with a Q&A at the end. So the WWBC is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to enable and empower Wyoming entrepreneurs with a special emphasis on women who are economically or socially disadvantaged. And we do that through three distinct programs. So the first is our business counseling and training program, which is always free. The second is our microfinance programs, which offer microloans and individual development accounts. And then the third is our artist development program, and we run that in conjunction with our Works of Wyoming store and Art Connect Gallery in downtown Laramie. So this particular webinar series is actually brought to you by our microfinance program, and that's the department that I work within. And I want to call special attention to our microloan program. We provide loans for those unable to get loans through traditional means up to $50,000. And so if you'd like more information on this specific program, you can contact our microlending director, Waldo Smith. All right, everybody, this is me. I'm a business counselor with the WWBC, and I've been working directly with Wyoming entrepreneurs for over 10 years now. And I'm a business owner and a real estate investor myself. And I've been helping clients launch, improve, and expand their online presence for many years, as well as with my own businesses. So let's get started. We're going to learn about setting up your business for online sales today. And I want to start by getting a sense of my audience and where you are in the process of moving your business online. So I want to start with a quick poll question. Let's launch our first poll. This is super simple. It's just a yes or no question. And I want to know, does your business currently have a website? So just a quick yes or no. I've got about 80% of the vote in. I'll wait a couple more seconds. This should be easy to answer. No judgment. These are all confidential, by the way. No one's going to know what your answer was since we've got well over 50 people on the call today. About 90% of the vote in. Give you a couple more seconds. All right. So no matter how you answered, you are not alone. We've got 63% of the people on today, they already have a website. Bravo. And we've got almost 40% that do not currently have a website. So thank you for that info. Okay. So now that we know what we're dealing with, some of you are at the very beginning, and some of you are simply going to be wanting to add e-commerce maybe to an existing site. And so recognizing that and where you're going to begin this process really makes a difference. So if you're someone that's at the very beginning, meaning you need to develop and launch a website, you've got more steps in the process than just adding e-commerce. Additionally, depending on the type of website you have, meaning the platform or the website builder you used for your website, that could also dictate the ease at which you add e-commerce as an option. So today, what I'm really going to try to do is give you an overview of the steps I recommend you take to start selling online. And as we go through this information, many of you are going to have questions that are really specific to your situation. I encourage you to ask those questions in your question panel. And Teresa's going to do her best to monitor those as we go along and kind of group them together so I can answer as many of them as possible during that Q&A session at the end. So step one in this process is really to identify your online marketplace. And so I've tried to structure this slide to help you understand what your options are and also give you a little bit of history, because it helps to understand where we began on the internet versus where we are today. So in the beginning, in the late 90s, early 2000s, e-commerce primarily took place on platform websites like Amazon and eBay. And that activity really continues today. And it includes additional options like Etsy and Facebook Marketplace. So selling products on established platforms, that's one option for selling online. But today, for this webinar, our focus is really selling online from your own website. And so that leads us to understanding really the difference between e-commerce website builders versus website builders that offer an e-commerce option or an add-on. So on the left side of your screen, you're going to see a list of e-commerce website builders. And as individual businesses in the past, at the beginning, right, they wanted the ability to sell their products online, these e-commerce website builders were developed. And this is essentially software, right? And these softwares or website builders, e-commerce website builders, were created. And the big names were Shopify, BigCommerce, Volusion, WooCommerce, and Magento. Some of those brands might sound familiar to you. And these companies allowed individual businesses to build an online store using their software and systems in order to process orders. And so today, the far and away leader of e-commerce website builders is Shopify. They have far outperformed all of their competitors to be the primo leader in this space. And what that means is that if you're looking for a website to primarily sell products, then Shopify is likely your best website builder because it's specifically designed to do that, just e-commerce. Now, at the same time, those e-commerce website builders were being created, other generic website builders came along, and they specialized in businesses that really just wanted to get their own website and their own business information out to the public, what I would call like a static website, right? It's just for informational purposes. It's like an expanded business card, but on the internet. And so what we ended up with was we had business websites that sold products online, and then we had business websites that didn't, and they each had their purpose. Some of the most popular and highly rated website builders today are Wix, Squarespace, Weebly, and Card. But there's a ton of them, probably over 100 out there if you've looked worldwide. So as the internet and e-commerce has grown, the e-commerce website builders and the regular website builders, right, the ones on the left and the right of your screen, they've kind of started to offer similar services and options, almost merging these two concepts together in order to allow business owners to have the most flexibility within their particular platform. And so today, there's lots of different website builders that offer e-commerce as an add-on or an option to your website. And so this list that I have of website builders with e-commerce, Wix and Squarespace and Weebly and Card, all of those have e-commerce options. At the same time, a website builder or an e-commerce builder like Shopify, they also offer a bunch of things that the other ones do too, like options to customize the design and the layout of your website. So what all this means is that there's a tremendous number of options for your business when it comes to building a website and offering online sales. And that's why identifying your best online marketplace and your best online website builder is really step number one. So just to give you a quick example of how each business can make a different decision, I'm going to take the Wyoming Women's Business Center as an example. So the Wyoming Women's Business Center is a complex business model, right? We're a nonprofit organization, and we definitely need an informational website that talks about all of our different programs. But one of our programs happens to be running a retail store in downtown Laramie, and that retail store wanted to have an online presence. And so it made sense for us to have an informational website, which is wyomingwomen.org. And if you go to wyomingwomen.org, you'll see an informational website that simply has a link to a Shop Now button. When you click on that link, it takes you to a separate website that has its own domain name called worksofwyoming.com. And that is where you can shop online. We used 2 different website builders in order to create our online presence. We used Wix.com for our informational website, which is wyomingwomen.org, and we used Shopify to create our e-commerce website for our worksofwyoming.com site and store. So that's an example where we actually used 2 different builders in order to make it make sense for our business. And so these are some of the considerations. Okay, so when you think about this for your own business, here are things that you should consider. First and foremost is really your time. Building a website, whether you do that on Shopify or on Wix or any other website builder, it's really ideal because you can maintain consistent branding and you can have the most control if you build your own website using one of those tools. But it's a much bigger time commitment, right? It's a bigger time commitment than just jumping onto eBay or setting up an Etsy store or using an existing platform like Facebook Marketplace. And so only you can decide if that time barrier is a problem or not. And if you're at the very beginning of this process, the reality is it's all going to take time and energy. And so it's important that you mentally prepare yourself for that commitment. So the next thing to consider is your resources. And you want to consider your own technology skills and if you're really up to the challenge of using these website builders yourself. You know, over the last decade, they've gotten much, much easier and intuitive to operate, but only you know if you're up to that challenge. So another option is to hire a graphic or website designer to help you. You can also enlist the guidance and the support of a business counselor like me to walk you through the process. And then finally, you'll want to think about where your customers hang out online and where the best place really is to reach them. So do you have customer email addresses that you can use to promote your new online store and kind of drive traffic to your store? What about social media? Do you already have a social media presence where you can push people to your online store? Can you advertise or use that business social media account more effectively? Just because you build an online store doesn't mean you're automatically going to have customers. So there's a lot of things to consider. So before we move on, I just want to call your attention real quick to the handouts section in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. So it's a little drop down. If you click on that section, you're going to see a PDF document that I've loaded there. And it's actually a resource guide that goes along with this webinar. Go ahead and click on that and download it now. There's some helpful links to articles and also videos that'll take you through the various reviews and features of the top website builders to help you make a decision for your business. And if you get stuck and you can't decide through this process, reach out to us at WWBC because we can help you. And if you're listening to this webinar on our YouTube channel and you want access to this handout, just email me and I'll be sure to get it to you. My contact information is going to be posted at the end. All right, we're going to launch another poll now that we understand a little bit more about website builders. And I want to know what statement best describes your skills, abilities, and interest at this point. Where are you at? Do you feel like you can navigate a website builder? Do you think you could use a website builder, but you might just need a little guidance and help along the way? Do you feel like you need to hire someone for website development? Or are none of these options sounding good to you, but you do still want to sell online? If you're in that camp, that might be because you've decided using one of the existing platforms makes sense for you, right? Like an eBay or a Facebook Marketplace or Etsy. So I've got about 75% of the vote in. I'm just going to give you a couple more seconds to respond. I can tell you right now, I'm just looking at the rolling results. No one's alone, no matter what you answer. There's no judgment here. We're just trying to get a sense of where everybody's at. And for yourself, try to determine where you're personally at. Okay, great job. Let's go ahead and share that out and take a look. Kind of a mixed bag here. We've got about 30% that says, I can do it. I can navigate a website builder. Bravo, good for you. About half of you think you could do a website builder, but you might need some guidance. Terrific. This is where you're going to reach out to the Business Resource Network in the state of Wyoming, and we're going to be able to help you at places like WWBC. About 15% say you'd be willing to hire, and about 2% says none of the above, and maybe that means you're going to go for an existing platform. Okay, guys, let's go on to step number 2. So capturing your products is the next step in this process. And capturing your products for online selling really comes down to 4 main areas. So the first is high quality images, because if we're looking at it on the screen, we need it to look awesome, right? The second is product naming, and then coming up with your descriptions, and finally pricing. So regardless of whether you're building the website yourself, or you already have a website, or you're hiring someone, the content for the e-commerce section of your website is more than likely going to be up to you. And so there's lots of online tutorials that can help with product positioning and lighting when you're taking photos. This is certainly not a new thing. So Google your questions, look on YouTube, tons of tutorials to help you capture your products. Again, depending on your resources, maybe it makes sense to hire a local photographer and make this a project. When it comes to product naming and writing descriptions, this often requires some copywriting skills. So if you have original products, then you're going to need more of your own creativity to develop your online descriptions. If you're reselling products, sometimes the descriptions are already available from the manufacturer. And so remember, there's a lot of online resources that can help with copywriting, and you'll be surprised how creative friends and family and employees can be as well. So be sure to check out your competition or e-commerce websites that you like, and those can give you content ideas. And then last but not least is pricing. So this is really specific to your business. So again, check out your competitors. And remember, you can always make changes as you go if needed. And what's great about online selling is you can make changes in real time, right? So it's not like you have to wait, 3 weeks in order to make a change. You can dive into your store and dive back out and make changes as needed as you go. All right, step number 3 is adding your products to your online store. So in this case, it will be likely that adding your products with names, descriptions, images, pricing, to the e-commerce section of your own website is your ultimate goal. I mentioned before, you may also decide to sell online through an existing platform like Etsy or Facebook Marketplace. And so you can always do that in addition to your own website. But again, this is really a personal business decision. And so this step of adding your products, it may seem obvious, in building or enhancing your website for e-commerce. But the reason that I mention it is because this step is actually an ongoing process in your new business of online selling. And notice that I said your new business, because the truth is, this is a new business model. For most of you that have never sold online before or just starting to sell online, it's a brand new business. And so just like you change and update your merchandise in your brick and mortar store, the same goes for your online store. The more creative and fresh you make the online shopping experience for your customers, the better experience they'll have and the more they're going to buy. So evaluating what's working in your online store is really the same process you go through in evaluating what's working in your brick and mortar store, right? If the cupcakes sell better when they're in your display case, then the same may be true for a product on the first page of your website or on the upper right-hand corner of your screen. These are the things that you're going to want to watch and track and take into consideration when it comes to your design. Now, depending on the website builder you choose, each software is going to have its own procedure and method for adding products to your online store. And each software is going to have online tutorials and they'll have built-in assistants to help you through their particular process. And each step of this is going to require new learning on your part. So again, it's going to be important that you just mentally prepare yourself for the time commitment. Because in my experience, launching websites or really making substantial upgrades or changes to existing websites, it typically takes about 2 to 3 times longer than most people plan for. So if you'll build that into your timeline projection from the beginning, you're going to be a lot less disappointed with your ultimate launch date. Okay, so once you've launched your e-commerce website and hopefully you're able to promote it and you actually receive online orders, the next step is you're going to have to package and ship those products to customers. And so the reason I'm talking about shipping at this stage versus the end is because the shipping software that you build in to your e-commerce site is something that's going to happen before you launch. So lots of website builders like Shopify, they have built-in systems to help you with shipping rates and even labels. And some of those services are going to come with your initial subscription, and others are going to be add-ons that you purchase. So again, depending on the complexity of your business and your own personal needs, you're going to have to decide which shipping software makes sense for you. So again, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of understanding that your online store is its own business, and it's going to require that level of dedication, especially in the beginning. So step number 4. Step number 4 is connecting your online store to whatever accounting software you use now. All right, so if this is the part where you tell me that you don't use an accounting software for your business, that's okay. It just means it's time to start. And I would actually recommend getting your accounting software up and running before you start selling online. Now, why do I say that? Because online sales revenue is going to directly be deposited into your business bank account. And as cool as that sounds, the tracking process of matching your online sales to deposits and then updating your inventory can get complicated really fast if you aren't using a software. So I've listed some of the most popular accounting software programs here on your screen, and I highly recommend QuickBooks Online. And WWBC actually has an entire webinar series that we did specifically on QuickBooks Online that's on our YouTube channel. It's a step-by-step tutorial series on setup all the way through working within QuickBooks Online. So I encourage you to check it out. And that link in the resources document that I sent you to in the handouts section, it actually has a specific link in order to get to that QuickBooks setup video. All right, so I want to get a sense where everybody is at with accounting software. So again, I'm going to launch a quick poll just to understand this. Tell me which statement best describes your business accounting plan for your e-commerce. So you use an accounting software already and you think you can connect it. You use an accounting software, but you don't know if you can connect it to your e-commerce site. You don't use an accounting software, but you're willing to start. You don't use an accounting software and you're not planning on it, right? Going forward. So where are we at? We've got about 70% of the vote in. Just give you guys a couple more seconds. Okay, let's close that out and share these results. Again, nobody's alone here. So we've got almost 20% that says, hey, I use software and I can connect it. Great, you're one step ahead. We've got some people that use an accounting software, but they're not sure if it can connect. So again, this goes back to your website builder that you're going to choose. That may become an important indicator of which software you want to go with, because you want to make sure that your accounting software is going to sync with it. So that's something you're going to want to look at in the feature list of whatever website builder you choose. All right, 42%. You don't use an accounting software, but you're willing to start. That's awesome. Good commitment on your part. Encourage you to take a look at QuickBooks Online or some of those others that were listed. And then lastly, I don't use accounting software and I'm not planning to going forward. Again, no judgment here, that's okay. It just means that your online selling may look a little bit different and require a different process. Excuse me. All right, guys, next step. So telling your customers and telling everyone. Once you have an operating website that allows e-commerce, it's time for your grand opening. And that means ensuring that all your customers know that they can shop online with you now. And so this is where you can use email campaigns. And if you have a customer email list, social media posts can also drive traffic to your website. Even physical signage on your storefront can help. So you may want to consider print media like direct mail or even your local newspaper. But the most important aspect to telling potential customers about your website is being sure that your business is searchable on Google. And that means a Google My Business listing for starters. So if the Google My Business listing is new to you, that's okay. It's all part of your new business model and your new learning. Learning about SEO, which stands for search engine optimization, is going to come with the territory once you're ready to announce that you're open for business online, right? So want to get an idea of my audience here and find out who has a Google My Business listing. So this is quick, just a yes or no question. Do you have an active Google My Business listing? Yes or no? So back to that resource guide that I asked you to download in the handouts section, there are links on that resource guide to a few more WWBC webinars that will help you understand SEO and online content marketing when you're ready for that. It also has a link to a guide that will help you set up your Google My Business listing if you need it. And it looks to me like we got quite a few people on this call that are going to need that. 64% of you do not have a Google My Business listing. This is a requirement for any online selling that you're going to do. So that is definitely in your queue for things to do. And so there's a simple guide that I've linked in that resource. Remember that launching a website that allows online selling is great. Okay, but driving traffic to your website is a totally different thing. So don't be under the illusion that once you have a website offering products for sale online, that people are going to automatically find you and start buying. That piece or that part of it, that takes work too, right? Because this is a new business. All right, so I want to close today by just asking you to be strong enough to stand alone, but smart enough to know when you need help and brave enough to ask for it. So in times like these, you know, our Wyoming independence culture can sometimes work against us. And I want you to know that you're not alone. And the resources that are available to you in this state are really incredible. And I can tell you that with certainty after working in economic development in Wyoming for over a decade. You know, the business resource network available to you in Wyoming is plentiful, and they really are ready to help. So it may take you a few phone calls or emails to find the right resource or the right person, but there's a substantial network of people that are ready to help small business owners in this state. And so I just encourage you to reach out and ask. All right, so we've got some time for questions today. If some questions came up along the way during this presentation, And so I will let Teresa kind of start gathering those together. And while she's gathering those together, I just want to mention that the WWBC is made possible through lots of partnership agencies, primarily the Small Business Administration and the Wyoming Business Council. And so, of course, we thank them for their support so that we can bring you this kind of training and these webinar series and really all of the services under the umbrella of WWBC and no charge. And so I'm just going to leave my contact information, up for myself as well as other business counselors within our organization while we take some questions. So Teresa, what's it looking like?
Hi, Christine. One of the first questions is, how would you go about finding a local expert to help set up selling online? This particular attendee is hoping to sell on Amazon.
So for right now, Amazon is going to be tough to sell on. You might have seen a little asterisk on my PowerPoint slide as I went through the information next to Amazon. As of the beginning of April, Amazon is no longer taking third-party sellers. And so this might be a temporary thing just during this global pandemic. Hopefully that is the case. But right now, Amazon doesn't look like it is a viable platform for immediate use. It's going to be again, at some point. But right now, as an essential service, they're not taking third-party sellers. So first and foremost, I just want to put that out there. And then secondly, as far as finding someone to help you sell onto Amazon, I'm sure there's several different private companies that launch that. But again, that's a Google search. And so we don't have a specific list of resources for sellers that help third-party sellers, on Amazon. But I'm sure that is easily searchable. And I know there's also all kinds of trade shows and conventions that promote that kind of use.
Okay, we have quite a few technical questions and wanting to get your opinion on some specifics. Do you have an opinion on Poshmark?
I really don't have an opinion on one website builder, over another, because it really comes down to your technical abilities and then what makes the most sense for your particular business, right? So some businesses really don't need any more than a one-page website. And it can be, generic and template oriented, and others need a lot more expansive capabilities and almost like a blank slate that they can build it, from the ground up. So it really depends on your technical abilities, who's going to be building it, what kind of resources you have in order to make the best decision. And so if you need someone to kind of bounce ideas off of or talk that through in order to make a decision, that's when I would encourage you to reach out to a business counselor, like myself or someone else at the WWBC or other people within the economic development landscape within the state of Wyoming in order to help you make that call.
Okay, there's one that maybe goes along with that. About one attendee has products uploaded to Square, wondering which platforms might work directly with that existing inventory. And maybe that goes along with your answer with the previous question, Christine.
So as far as like accounting software with Squarespace, or what links are we talking about?
Yeah, the products are uploaded to Square. Which platforms will work directly with that existing inventory?
So I guess that's a technical. So Square different than Squarespace. I think they mean Square,
I think so.
The point of sale, processing. Again, Square might have a list, but it's probably more likely that a website builder is going to say within their features list what channels they have an add-on for or they sync with. Again, Square, really popular point of sale program. So more than likely your major website builders, whether it's Shopify or Squarespace or Wix or whatever, more than likely they have some kind of integration so that those two work together. But I would take a look at the website builder. I would take a look at the softwares that you're currently running. And then when you're shopping for the website builder, make sure that they sync with those.
Okay, there's a question about what are the positives and negatives about using a platform like Etsy versus your own website?
Okay. So, Etsy is a platform site where your store just appears on Etsy. So when people go to Etsy, then they would have to search within Etsy in order to find your specific items or your store on that site. Just like Amazon, right? You go to Amazon and there's, millions of products. So if you know what you're looking for and you put that into the search bar, then up comes, now only hundreds of products or thousands of products instead of millions, and then you have to funnel it down from there. So with these kinds of platform sites that you're selling on, it can be a little bit of a needle in a haystack unless you are able to do all of the kind of SEO functions within their sites, within their platforms to make you a popular seller, which often just takes time, right? You have to get good reviews and, you have to be on the site for a certain period of time. And maybe you get chosen as a choice product. There's all these different kind of back end things, on those platform sites that can help you do better. But a lot of it is just a factor of time that you're on that site. So that would be the disadvantage, is that you can become like a needle in a haystack. The advantage is that the platform already exists and you may have an audience that you didn't have previously, because maybe someone random in Maryland, ends up on Etsy and finds your items because they were specifically looking for, the reindeer plush toy that you make, right? The advantage to your own website and your own individual website is that you can personally drive traffic there. So if you have an existing business, an existing brick and mortar store, and you want to take your own customer base and just drive them to your online store, then you have that option. And there's no pass through or third party or middleman in order to get them to your store, because you can drive them directly to your domain name and they end up at your website. The drawback is that you have to do all the back end SEO, and work in order to drive an audience to your individual website. And it's going to require more time and energy. I personally think it's ultimately better to own your site and drive people to your own individual website versus having it on a separate platform. But again, that's a decision you have to make with your time and your resources.
Okay, this attendee's business is more of an online service-based business. Wondering if you think that the plan that you've outlined here will work for that type of business as well.
It can. If you are already an online business, then the question becomes, are you already selling things online, or do you need to start selling things online? And of course, selling products online is different than selling services online. So I'd probably need to get more information about your individual business. And again, if you want to reach out to any of our business counselors at WWBC, we're happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you and walk you through it. Our business counseling is always free.
Okay, there's a question about eBay, wondering if they've taken a hit with the pandemic, as they're seeing a lot of gouging.
So I don't have any individual information, on eBay. I know that the government is certainly looking into price gouging issues, with eBay. So as far as, a hit to I don't know if that means like a hit to their stock or just a hit to their reputation. I think we're in a new world here, and we're going to see all kinds of changes that are going to be happening as a result of this.
Okay, this attendee didn't see PayPal listed as an option and wondering if there's a reason for that.
There isn't. It really just comes down to there's hundreds of options when it comes to payment processing, accounting software, point of sale options, website builders. There's no way to list them all. And so you really, again, this is a personal business decision. You have to decide what platform makes the most sense for you.
Okay, there's been a couple of questions wanting to reminders on where to find the handouts on the right.
Okay, so on the right-hand side, it should be towards the bottom, maybe above your chat panel. And if you just press the little arrow for the handout, there's a PDF document and you should be able to download it. But if anybody has trouble with that, feel free to just shoot me an email. My email address is on the screen right now, and I'm happy to send it to you as an attachment.
Also, there were a couple of questions wondering if they could see the list of website builders again.
Absolutely. Let's flip back to that really quick. And again, this isn't anywhere close to the total number of website builders out there. I'll tell you that Wix often gets rated best overall. And the reason that it gets that rating is because of what's called a blank canvas editor. And what that means is you really have the ability to customize the look of your website and build it from the ground up, where some of these other website builders like Weebly or Card, they have pretty concrete templates. And so you have to select one of the templates that they offer. Mind you, they may have 100 different templates to choose from, and you may not be able to creatively come up with something different looking than that anyway. And so that works just fine for you, right? It just depends on what your needs are, what your interests are with your website. But that's typically the reason that Wix gets highly rated is because of their blank canvas editor, and because overall they have so many features. Same thing with Squarespace. They often get rated the best prepackaged site, but Weebly and Card are high up on that list as well. But again, there's probably over 100 different website builders out there. A lot of it just comes down to which one makes most sense to you, which one seems easiest to navigate for you, right? Some software programs, anybody that's familiar with learning new software, sometimes it's intuitive to you, but the person next door, it's not intuitive to them, right? So it's a personal choice.
Okay, there's a question about using Venmo for sales. Do you know if it works with online sales well?
Again, this comes down to the e-commerce platform or website builder that you choose to use. So a lot of these payment processing, whether it's PayPal or Venmo or Zelle or any of these payment processing companies, Square, they all typically will create ways to integrate with these website builders because they know that that's key to the success of their own business model. So if you're already using a particular payment processing system and that's what you want to stay with, again, that's something to look at when you're shopping for the website builder. That should be another consideration.
And I'm lumping some of these questions together. There's been a lot of great questions, so hopefully I'm helping cover everything here. Wondering if you have advice on businesses that sell both wholesale and retail. If you know of one platform that does well for both wholesale and retail.
That's a great question. So I would start with Shopify to see how they cover those two sections or those two sections differently. It may be possible to split e-commerce website into wholesale and retail. So, literally people have to log in to the wholesale side of your site versus the retail side of your site. This may also be a situation where it makes sense to build two separate e-commerce stores, one for your wholesale customers and one for your retail. But I'm confident that that's something that Shopify has worked with. And so it'd be a good idea, to do some investigation with them to see how that could work.
And we have a tax question. If you're selling online, if the customer is out of state, do you charge the Wyoming tax to that customer?
So typically the sales tax is supposed to be collected where the customer is. But again, most of the online e-commerce website builders have this built in to their systems. And so when the customer puts in their shipping address, then the tax and the shipping prices get calculated, and that is built in to the software.
Okay, and there was one more question that came through regarding copyright information. Do you have a resource on where to find copyright?
So as far as how, I don't know if that's to copyright.
I think on naming a product, online resources for copyright on specific product naming.
I would have to I would have to research that a little bit. I think what you're asking might be more trademark than copyright. I guess it's just going to depend. Like if you're I'm guessing what you're asking is if you're naming a product, you want to be sure that you don't name it the same as something else, and often this comes down more to trademark. So inherently, when you write something, it is copyrighted, assuming that you aren't. Gosh, how can I explain this? Because it's sort of a legal question, and I'm not a lawyer. I want to say that up front. When you write something, it's essentially, copyrighted because it's original, content. Now, actually making that so it can't be lifted or stolen is something separate. So because I don't want to give legal advice, as far as a resource for copywritten material, I think I'd have to get back to you on that. I can try and do some research around that, or refer you to some legal counsel. But we do have a list of the questions and the email addresses from everybody. So I'll dig into these questions after we close this webinar. And if I didn't feel like I gave you a complete answer, I'll reach out to you directly.
I think that's it, Christine.
All right, awesome. Okay, guys, so before we close out, I just want to let you know we're trying to ramp up the number of webinars that we're doing during this time, and trying to make them make sense, for our current climate. So our next webinar is going to be on Thursday, April 23rd. You'll see some advertisements posted on our social media and on our website today about that. And then we'll also have email communication going out soon. And it's going to be on improving workplace communication during COVID-19 as we all learn to work from home. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Again, if you have any additional questions, you need further assistance, you want some business counseling support that is free, I don't want you to hesitate to contact us. We're happy to assist you here. So once again, take some time to complete the survey. It's going to launch just in a few seconds when I close out this webinar. We really do read every survey, and your feedback's important to our program. Thanks again, and be safe, everybody.